Okay, guys, it's a big fight weekend again. I mean, the last 2 weekends have been great, but now we got a little bit more of a fun fight, right? We got Jake Paul versus Nate Diaz. Okay, obviously Jake Paul has been working himself and proving himself as somebody who's taking the sport serious, a YouTuber who a lot of people aren't really happy that he, became a boxer and has gotten so much attention. But hey, man, at the end of the day, he's gotten a lot of attention, and he's been working hard, man. He's been proving himself. I mean, he's fought, quality former UFC champions, and he just got off a fight with a professional boxer, Tommy Fury, and now he's fighting another UFC former champion, Nate Diaz. And Nate Diaz, from what I hear, has a pretty good boxing background. So I haven't been really paying too much attention to either guy, I'm going to be honest with you. So today what I'm going to do is right now, while I'm with you guys, I'm going to open up my laptop and I'm actually going to take a look at both guys. And I'm going to give you my honest opinion on who I think is going to win tomorrow. That's it. So let's not waste no time. Let's get right to it. Okay, so right now I'm actually going through YouTube and I'm going to go ahead and check out what the great Andre Ward, I should say. He's speaking with Joe Rogan and what his thoughts are. So let's go ahead and see what Andre had to say.
Shout out to my boy Nick and Nate Diaz, and all the work we've done in camp. Those guys got me ready for a lot of my Southpaw opponents, midway through and toward the end of my career. So a lot of
Interesting. Andre Ward actually brought the Diaz brothers in to help him prepare for some of his fights toward the end of his career. That's interesting. That's something that I'm just finding out right now. So that says a lot about Nick Diaz. It shows that he's really in the mix and he's really helping professional fighters get ready. So let's see what else he had to say.
Work with those guys, and specifically Nate. At a certain point, I stopped working with Nick because he was doing other things, but Nate, man, and the volume and having to deal with the awkwardness and the height and the reach, and that got me ready for Chad Dawson.
That's amazing.
That's my boy.
Yeah, he's a tough dude, man.
So Nate Diaz got Andre Ward ready for Chad Dawson, which was actually, in my opinion, one of his great wins, because we all know that at that time Chad Dawson was a phenomenal fighter. And Andre Ward won that fight pretty clearly, so that's interesting to know. All right, so now I'm gonna go ahead and see a clip. It's a little old, 4 years ago. So what's that, 2019? But it's Nate Diaz sparring with Regis Prograis. So let's watch this. Let me see this. I've never seen this before. You guys are watching this with me for the first time, so you're gonna get my real reaction. All right, so let's see. Slaps with his hook a little bit there. He's trying to use his jab. He keeps working himself right back to the inside. It seems like he wants to go inside. So I already see that when he fights Jake tomorrow, I wouldn't be surprised if it becomes a slugfest. I wouldn't be surprised if it becomes a slugfest, because it seems like Nate gets he's more comfortable in close quarters. Even though he's a tall fighter, it seems like he wants to mix it up. He wants to smother, so it's only a 49-second clip, you know what I mean? So let's see. All right, so now I'm about to watch him spar. Apparently a professional. I'm not sure who the professional is. I don't see any name, but let's go ahead and take a look at this. One thing I noticed about Nate that I don't like is the way he throws his hook. He throws his hook like a slap. It's like a slap and hook. He did it earlier when I watched him spar against Regis. He's doing it again against this guy. So that hook, to me, it's just like a slap and hook. There's nothing on it. But for the most part, it seems like he wants to get close to you and maybe tire you out. Maybe, try to just make it uncomfortable. So that's what I'm seeing from Nate so far. The punch. His jab's okay. He's a little awkward. He switches stands awkwardly. Truth be told, his boxing to me is not all that great. He seems like he's a pure fighter, and fighters don't always need the best technique. They don't always need the best, the best stuff when they got the heart of a lion and the conditioning and the will. But fundamentally, I mean, I'm not impressed fundamentally at all. There's a lot of flaws here. And if Jake Paul can take advantage of some of these flaws, I'm just looking at it from a coach's perspective. I don't want to be disrespectful to the fighter. But every once in a while, he does showcase some decent stuff like that 1-3-2. I didn't mind it. It was okay. Like, every once in a while, you'll see like a spurt that you're like, oh, okay. So it's kind of like he's a very, very unorthodox and very awkward fighter. That's another thing I'm going to say. He's very awkward. And a lot of times when you're boxing an awkward fighter, those guys are more difficult than the guys who box properly, because you don't know where the punches are coming from. You don't know if he's switching. You don't know if that wide hook that looks sloppy actually hurts, so there's some awkwardness to him, and that might alone present problems for Jake Paul. All right, now let's go into Jake Paul, the 6-1 professional. All right, I'm gonna go ahead and look at one of his professional fights. It's hard for me to pronounce this other YouTuber's name that he's fighting. I don't want to say it wrong, but I remember him because, funny story, we fought on the same card when I used to train Tevin Farmer, and it's a DAZN card, and I recognized the guy immediately because we were in the same dressing room. Not dressing room, we were in the same gym in the hotel, working out, getting the weight right and everything like that. So it's just crazy, like, how small of a world this fighting thing is, man, that I was actually on this card with my fighter at the time. So let's go ahead and let's take a look at this. And I think at this time, Jake Paul was training with Shea Mosley for this fight, if I'm not mistaken. Jake is boxing, using his footwork. This kid that he's fighting is being ultra aggressive. Funny that I was on this card, but I didn't watch this fight. Jake Paul's punches have better technique than Nate Diaz, believe it or not. Yes, but again, this is against a lower quality guy, so I'm not gonna sit there and get too excited about these clips, because at the end of the day, the guy that he was fighting made him look better. So had Nate Diaz been fighting this guy, it might have been the same results. Again, technique ain't everything. Now he's gonna go ahead and fight the legend, Anderson Silva. I actually watched this fight. We all know that Anderson Silva has a boxing background. He actually fought as a professional. He used to train with Freddie Roach. He was a great Muay Thai fighter. So this is a guy with a lot of striking experience, enough boxing experience. He should have won this fight based off of his experience. But his age played a factor. And Jake Paul seems strong. Jake Paul's strength also carries him. He's in pretty good shape for these fights. He's in pretty good shape, which is a big deal in boxing. If you ever boxed before, you know the importance of being in shape. Put a combination together right there. These are obviously the highlights for Jake. But Jake looks like a guy who knows what he's doing in the ring. He doesn't look like a world-class fighter, man. Look, he just threw a right-hand lead. He doesn't look like a world-class fighter to me, but he looks like a guy who understands the game. He understands footwork. He understands his boxing. He understands range. He understands technique. This is a notable win. You know what I mean? You got 5 pro fights or 4 pro fights or whatever he had. I think 5, and he beat Anderson Silva. That's a good win. It's a solid win. You got to give him credit for the Anderson Silva victory. Yeah, based off what I'm looking at right now, I like what I'm seeing from Jake Paul more than what I saw from Nate Diaz. All right, let's look at the pad work. Comfortable with his jab, taking his time. His trainers standing in southpaw, so they understand that, you know, Nate Diaz may be switching in this fight, which I believe Nate Diaz is going to probably come out southpaw to try to throw him off. Good distance. Pad work looks pretty good. Jab is good. Trainer's staying orthodox now. He's got him doing the right stuff on the mitts. I'm okay with the mitt work that I'm looking at right now. Yeah, overall, Jake Paul looking like the more seasoned boxer, believe it or not. Looking more seasoned. Okay, so let's go down to my prediction. Okay, so we got Nate Diaz, the experienced UFC fighter. He has boxing sparring experience, sparred greats like Andre Ward. He's known for his gas tank. I mean, we seen when he was going against Conor McGregor, who had better technique than him, you know, in his striking areas, was still able to get outworked, out-hustled. Nate Diaz seems to want to out-hustle you. If you notice earlier in the videos, I was saying that even though I'm not crazy about his technique and I'm not crazy about how he throws his hooks, he always ends up smothering, going to the inside, looking to tire out his opponent, which I believe he's basically going to be his game plan tomorrow. His game plan is going to be to tire out Jake Paul, the less experienced overall fighter. Will Jake Paul be able to deal with the smothering? Will he make Jake Paul overwork himself on the inside smothering? When he goes southpaw, will that throw Jake Paul off a little bit, right? But I don't think that Nate Diaz has good enough defense to stop the punches coming back. I don't think Nate Diaz is much stronger, if stronger, than Jake Paul. And I have Jake Paul winning by decision. I think he'll win a close decision. I don't know how many rounds. I think it's a 10-round fight, so I don't know what I'm exactly going to score about. Let's just say that I got Jake Paul winning by a couple of points. I think that Jake Paul should be able to rack up enough rounds in the fight to go ahead and beat Nate Diaz. I do believe that Nate Diaz should be able to smother enough to not get knocked out in this fight. End of the day, I think that the age, and I think that the activity, and I think that the strength, and I think that the better technique is gonna go to Jake Paul in this particular fight. Jake Paul has already fought proven fighters like Anderson Silva, Tyrone Woodley, and Tommy Fury. So, I mean, those three recent fights alone show me that he can get into a ring with a guy like Nate Diaz. Nate Diaz isn't like a big step up anymore. I mean, this would have been a step up prior to the other fights he had, but it's not a big step up. It's actually right in alignment with the kind of guys that he's been able to beat. I do see Jake racking up the points and winning a very interesting, weird, sloppy type of a fight. I see both guys wrestling each other. I see a lot of smothering going on, a lot of holding, a lot of dirty tactics, the referee having to get involved. That's what I see tomorrow. I don't see clean boxing. I don't see, but I do see action-packed, because Nate is going to try to make it an action-packed fight. Nate is going to go on the inside. He's going to try to rough him up. He's going to try to test his will. And I'll tell you what, if Jake at any point in that fight gets nervous or something happens to him, Nate can very well prove me wrong, which I don't think it would be a long shot if he did. I mean, I'd give him an opportunity to win, but he can go ahead and he can win the fight, because, you know, at any point that he could bring some self-doubt to Jake Paul, I think that would be his key to victory. But I'm going to go ahead and pick Jake Paul. Man, who would have ever thought that you would have professional coaches picking a YouTuber to beat a former UFC champion, with all these years of experience? But that's what happens when you work hard, you're consistent, you really show that you really want to do this. And this could be anybody. This could be you right now watching this. You could be home and seeing somebody on TV and thinking, man, I can never beat a guy like that. Hey, man, if you put in the hard work, you might be able to, man. So go ahead and put in that hard work. Guys, you already know, man. Go to the website, coachanthonyboxing.com. Go ahead, learn how to box so you could be the next guy on the big screen. And you already know, boxing life.